And you talk about the importance of understanding your own personality before you start applying. Are there any particular personality tests that you'd recommend?
Yes and no. So I do really like the idea of trying out some of these online tests. There's a lot of different types of quizzes that you can try. Some of them are quite lighthearted and fun. There's the one on the iCould
Yeah,
website,
the buzz,
the Buzz
which
quiz.
turns you
Yeah.
into an animal and then tells you what job you should
Yeah,
do.
yeah. And they're all useful for basically starting a conversation with yourself and with other people about what you're like. What I found when I use them with students and graduates is you have an instant reaction to a statement like, you're the kind of person who really enjoys working with others. And you either think, yes, that is me, or no, that is not me at all. And that feeling is what helps you to discuss, well, why do I think that? What experiences have I had that make me think I am or I am not the kind of person who likes to do that? So I think it's a great way to start a conversation. It's not something I would use as a diagnostic tool to say, and therefore you will always be the kind of person who wants to lead or who doesn't want to lead. Um, but so in particular, which ones would you say, Tristan, that you'd recommend if there were ones you were sending people
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like you, I'm a bit skeptical about the idea of sort of testing people and telling them this is the job you should do. I don't think that's a particularly helpful thing to do, but I think it can be useful, particularly for those people who do literally say I don't know what to do with myself, to give them something that stimulates them with some ideas and gives them some way of sort of framing their thinking. And there are lots of various tools out there. I mean, things like adult directions and the cascade tools, or I mean, there's lots of tools like that. But what we talk about in the book mainly, I mean, we give links to quite a few different free tools that are out there. And we also highlight the fact that lots of employers use these as well as part of assessment centres. And so it's pretty good to have had a go at doing some of
Yeah.
these things, so you're not completely surprised. But I think what most psychologists use when if you're trying to actually describe how somebody's personality works, then they use this Big Five test or the Ocean test. And what it asks you is, how open are you to experiences? How conscientious are you? How much of an extrovert are you? How agreeable are you? And then how neurotic are you? And neuroticism is about how you deal with difficult emotions and difficult situations. And so we also link people to a test like that. And I think if you wanted to do a fairly reliable test that would give you some sort of feedback to reflect on what your personality is like, then using one of the ocean-based tests is quite a good thing to do. But yeah, I mean, as we say, I don't think we generally aren't in favour, I don't think, of the sort of test and tell approach. I think this is all useful stuff that's really just part of a broader set of self-reflection.
Yeah, I mean, as we, I completely agree, and I think the important thing is just that self-reflection. It is just taking the time, as we mentioned, just to do a little bit of thinking, to think about what you are like and what jobs you are really going to be attracted to. There's lots of different tools out there, and it's just about doing the thinking with any of them, because they'll all probably, help shape and direct where you want to go.
Yeah, yeah.
And building on that with the people's strengths and weaknesses, again, you mentioned in the book about the importance of beginning to think about what some of your strengths and weaknesses might be. How would you recommend that people begin to do that? Are there any, again, tools that can help shape the way people do it to make it more effective?
Hmm.
I think we think it's valuable to think about both your strengths and your weaknesses. And in the book, we sort of make suggestions that people should make lists. And the other thing is that we ask them to go and talk to other people. And I mean, it requires a bit of bravery, but actually one of the things that's most useful in terms of any reflection is getting some input from friends and colleagues and other students on your course and so on, because you can sometimes be surprised about what they think of as your strengths and weaknesses. I think I'm quite interested in the idea of strengths as being a way of thinking about career and what you're good at. And so there's a lot of positive psychology stuff that tries to say, actually, we often spend far too much time focusing on the weaknesses and not enough time focusing on the strengths. And if we can figure out the things that you're really good at, then actually that's a much better basis for you to kind of make decisions, rather than spending a lot of time worrying about the things that you're not good at, because you can often find ways to overcome them. So yeah, I mean, I think broadly, I suppose I'd adopt a sort of positive way of thinking about that, but I think we also do need to be realistic sometimes and recognize there are some things that we're just not very good at, and might be something that we want to avoid doing if we were going to spend a lot of time in a career doing it every day.
No, I definitely agree.
And I think,
sorry, Korin.
Sorry, I was just going to say what Tristram's just highlighted is reflected in a bit of a change that we've seen recently with some of the graduate recruiters, where they're looking at strengths-based interview techniques. And one of the ways that they approach that is by providing scenarios for students or graduates to consider. So how would you react in a situation where there was a fight taking place outside of this building, for example? And what that does is requires people to then look back on their own experiences and draw from lots of different places. So instead of thinking, well, in a work scenario, I would do this, they might then say, well, when my sisters and brothers have been arguing, this is how I would approach it. And that helps them to draw on the strengths that they have from a wide variety of places in their lives. And so I think that's a positive thing. And I guess that's one way that you could start looking at your strengths, is thinking about, in the different experiences I have in my life, what things have I done? And what do my friends and family have to say about that? And then following on from that, if you're struggling to think of experiences, it's probably because you need some more. So it's certainly, if you're a student and it's autumn and you've just started university, the absolute best thing you could be doing is signing up for some interesting activities, joining some groups, and getting the opportunity to meet new people and do new things.
No, I definitely agree. And just echoing what you said about strengths, Tristam, a book that I've done a couple of times now and really found really useful is called Strengths Finder 2.0 by Tom Rath, where I don't know if you've come across the book. It has the back of the book, it's got a little code you've got to scratch away, and then you go online and answer one of those surveys where it asks you the same question hundreds of times in different ways to find out what your strengths are, and then it sort of, in the book, it talks about how you can then develop the strengths, but it echoes your comment you made about trying to, instead of improve your weaknesses, just focus on your strengths, and then you'll get more benefit from it, looking at it that way.
Yeah, I've looked at that book, and I mean, there's a few people who in that sort of positive psychology guy. There's a guy, I think his name's Alex Linley, who was at Leicester for a while, who wrote a similar kind of thing on sort of positive psychology and focusing on strengths. And yeah, it makes really obvious sense, doesn't it? Is that if all you do is obsess about, well, I haven't got brilliant attention to detail, and so you spend a lot of time then trying to improve it, you end up focusing on the thing that's really not your best sort of thing, and that's not really that helpful. So I think trying to focus on strengths and work out what they are. I mean, having said that, I do think you can improve areas that you are weaker on, and that is worth thinking about sometimes. But in terms of career choice and so on, I think, yeah, focusing on strengths is really helpful.
No, definitely. And also, it's good to get that thinking done early, because at some point over the application process, you're going to be asked what your strengths and weaknesses are in an interview. So it's good to have thought about it beforehand, so you're not caught short during the interview itself.